Greetings, Akwaba, welcome. Thank you for joining us today for Habaragani. What's the word? What day in Kwanzaa are we here together spending our time together with today? Kuumba. Today we are embodying our creativity, but we're also connecting to all the principles of Kwanzaa today. And with that, I'm going to introduce myself and get started with my presentation. My name is Keisha Makiba Bowers. I am a clinical social worker. I am a mother of 3. I am a community member. I am an African dancer. I am a Reiki teacher, master teacher. I am a human being, and I am excited to share with you all today how we are going from stress to ease, how we are going to move from survival into thriving individually, as a family, and as a larger community. So when I was asked to come today and share with you all, I really thought deeply about how I'm going to connect mental wellness, emotional healing, and Kwanzaa. So I'm going to invite you all to join me on a journey today. To get our moment started, I ask for you to think about the importance of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa was created to celebrate the beauty of African heritage that lives in Black families and culture in the United States of America. It was created to help us learn the power. The word Kwanzaa means first harvest, first fruit, the first thing that you bear in your crop from the seed that you planted. That is what Kwanzaa is. And we are going to embody the power of planting our seeds. So I'm going to invite you today to think about the parts of yourself that you may have tucked away, that you may have hidden, the parts of yourself that you struggle with seeing because it feels unbearable, it feels painful. We are going to plant the seeds of healing into the ground during this time. We're going to plant the seeds of wellness. We're going to plant the seeds of growth, of development, of creativity, of faith, of all the days of Kwanzaa. And so I am talking to you all today about the wounded part of ourselves. The parts of ourselves that we do bury and we tuck away and we don't like to face. Sometimes they show up physically in our headaches, pains in the body. Sometimes they show up mentally in how we're triggered and how we react. Sometimes they show up when, someone says something that we don't like and we don't know how to respond, because we feel angry and we haven't learned to deal with our anger. Today, we're going to dive deep into this part of ourselves. So I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Sister Keisha. Everyone in the community calls me Sister Keisha. I am a mental wellness advocate, a social worker, a therapist, and I teach transformations. I teach how we can go from pain to purpose, from stress to ease, and from survival to thriving. So I'm going to ask you all for your patience today because I have my handy dandy notes that's guiding much of my conversation and much of the activities that I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to take you on a journey through many activities. So are you ready for me? Yes? Well, I'm ready. I'm excited to be here. So you know who I am. You know what I'm about. Now we're going to talk about the part of you that we know is hidden away, but we're planting seeds of healing and wellness. We're going to call that part of ourselves today the inner child. That part of ourselves that is unresolved, that didn't get a chance to grow up for many, many reasons. The inner child is the part of you that carries the pain and emotional trauma from your childhood. And I know in particular in Black community, this is taboo for us to admit that something might have gone wrong or that we may have learned a negative way of existing through our childhood experiences. It's really, really difficult for us to say, maybe we developed something from the people who raised us, from what we saw in our communities. Maybe there was something that hurt. But we know collectively, as a group of people, that we faced collective oppression, right? Much of that has been planted in our homes. So we've faced emotional abuse. We have faced physical abuse. We've faced being ridiculed and criticized by family members. We have faced sexual trauma. We don't have to hide about it anymore because we are moving into our wellness. So there are many signs that we have that we sometimes ignore, and I'm going to highlight those for you today. Okay? When we're in autopilot and we're just living our lives, we became 18, we became adults, and we moved into just living our lives, we never paid attention to these parts of existing. We never paid attention to the parts of ourselves that are probably unresolved because we're on autopilot. But the signs that there is a wounded part of ourselves, that's our inner child, is if you were not able to express yourself when you were a child, if you grew in an environment where children were to be seen and not heard. How many of us have heard that often enough? Children should be seen and not heard, right? That sends a message to repress, to stuff away, to push down. And that could create a wounded inner child. If you had to hide parts of yourself to be loved or accepted, if who you naturally were as a child was not accepted, sometimes this is related to our sexuality too. Sometimes it's just related to how, if you were a talkative child, did they tell you to shut up all the time? Think about these aspects of your life because feelings buried alive never die. Think about those parts of yourself that never had a chance to grow and resolve, right? If you had to walk on eggshells for a parent or a caretaker, then you definitely have a wounded part. Walking on eggshells creates anxiety. It creates a sense of, I don't know when I'm going to be in trouble. I don't know what's going to happen next. And sometimes we experience walking on eggshells when we're dealing with alcoholism, addiction, drug addiction in our family dynamics, okay? So if you were often ridiculed or criticized, did you ever feel like you were the one to get blamed? Did you often feel like you were the bad child in your childhood? If you did, then you have a part of yourself that may be wounded and you don't even realize it. So I have a magical question for you today that's going to help us proceed and go on. And I would like for you to think very deeply, but not too deep, because the first age that comes to mind, I would like for you to identify that age. How old were you when you needed the most love? How old were you when you needed the most love in your childhood? What age was that? Think about this part of yourself and let's visit that age. So that's going to lead me into the next part of my presentation. I would like for you to get relaxed for this part of the discussion. I would like for you to remove your shoulders from your ears. Get grounded if you're seated in a chair. Allow your feet to touch the ground. Take a few deep breaths, breathing through your nose and out your mouth. And I'm going to just invite you to connect with the part of yourself, this age that you identified, the age when you needed the most love, the most care, the most attention. And I'm going to do a visualization for us today. Imagine right now sitting down in a rocking chair and getting very comfortable. Feel yourself rocking easily back and forth. And as you continue rocking, you might find yourself starting to drift. drifting more and more. Rocking back and forth, you might find yourself just going back into time, connecting with this inner child, with this child who needed the most love. Slowly, imagine yourself getting younger and younger. The years are going by, going back into the early 2000s, the late 1990s, however far back, if you're going back into the 1980s, whatever age it was, you're going back, and right now, you are very young. You're imagining now that you can see the little child that you were a long time ago. Very soon, you can see this child right in front of you. What does this child look like? What is this child wearing? About how old is this child? Can you see where this child is? Indoors or outdoors? Can you see what this child is doing? Maybe you can see this little child's face right now in this moment. And if you look carefully, you can see the expression in your little child's eyes. Can you tell how this little child is feeling right now? As you look at this child, can you recall anything that was missing in this child's life? Is there anything that kept this child from being fully happy? If there was anyone or anything that got in the way of this child being completely happy and carefree, perhaps you can imagine seeing this person or this situation right now before you. If no one is there yet, maybe you can imagine your dad or your mom or whoever you would like standing in front of you right now. What does your child feel towards your dad, your mom, or whoever is right there? Is there anything that your child would like to say to this person right now? If so, it's okay to go ahead and say it this very moment. You can go ahead and just say what it is that you never had a chance to say. If your little child is feeling afraid or confused about saying anything, imagine that your present day adult self enters the scene right this moment and goes up and stands next to your little child. When you're ready, imagine your adult self saying exactly, speaking up on the behalf of your little child. Your adult self can say whatever it wants to say, exactly what never got expressed. Tell your parent or whoever is there whatever you need to say, whatever it was. And if you want to, you can complete the sentence. How do you think it makes me feel that? Or you can even say, I wish you had. Tell your parent or whoever is there anything you wish they had done, but they didn't do. And when you speak up, make sure you speak loud and clear so that you can be sure that whoever is there really hears you. Does whoever is standing there have a response? Listen and see if there is a response. And when you're finished speaking, you can ask them to go away. You can ask this person or this situation to leave you alone. Or you can decide to give them a hug. You have the power in this very moment to do whatever it is that you want to do. and you cannot get punished. Now go back and see your present day adult self standing next to your little child. And if you're willing to, pick that little child up in your arms this very second and love this child. Wrap your arms around this child and tell this child that it's okay. Tell this child that you know how they feel, that you understand, that you're here, and you're going to help this child and love them very much. If you could give a color to the love that you feel, what color comes to mind? Surround your little child with the light of this color and let your child feel the peace of being in your arms. Tell this child that you love the way this child walks and talks and laughs, how this child does everything. Tell this child that you believe they are great. Tell them that you care, that they're precious, and anything that you feel this child needed to hear at this stage of life when they needed the most love. And when you're ready, you can wiggle your toes and your fingers and return to this space. Oh, take a deep breath. I have something powerful to share with you. You can do this at any time that you need to in your life. You can revisit your little child, because the key to healing is all about connecting with this part of yourself. And we call it reparenting, learning to give to yourself what you didn't get. You don't have to be stuck in the pain of the past, because as long as you resolve that pain, you can create a new future and a new beginning. Now, did you see your little child when we did the visualization? Who did your little child speak to? How did your little child feel after being surrounded by your own love? How did you feel giving that love to your child? Now, I would like for you to think of the things that trigger you today. What gets you really angry? What gets you frustrated? If you're frustrated, the root emotion is anger. What moves you to chew the sides of your mouth or to bite your nails? Think of those triggers and reconnect with the little child that you saw today. Can you see how your triggers are connected to a part of yourself that was unresolved? If you were called names, if you were criticized or ridiculed, now you're an adult and you work in an environment with a boss that criticizes constantly, points out all your flaws. If you're not connected to the emotion of the anger and you're stuffing it down, the next day you'll be sad, depressed, unhappy, and you won't know why. Or you may have an attachment to food, gossip, alcohol, something that is easing the pain, and it's destroying you at the same time. Today, we are moving into a new beginning. We're planting seeds of wellness during this harvest, right? Your next crop will be you're bearing fruit of your own wellness and your own healing. And so I would like to share with you from this book, and I have other books that I'm going to be referring you all to, but this book by Melody Beattie, it's called Journey to the Heart. And she explains how we have to forgive our inner child for being so afraid. No matter how much work we've done on ourselves, no matter how committed we are to healing, there may be a part of us that's 4 years old when we deal with certain people. There may be a part of us that still feels frozen, frightened, powerless, and abandoned when we face certain situations. We may be all dressed up, look grown up, have our professional hat on, but the person wearing it is 4 years old and scared, afraid to speak up, relax, and be who we are. A powerful, sensitive, creative, competent, intelligent, wise adult. Watch for these 4-year-olds. Be gentle, kind, compassionate. Forgive them for being so frightened. They have reasons that are valid, understandable, and sometimes noble. But their reasons come from a long time ago. And this is now. We're grown now. We're strong. We're free. We can walk away, speak up, laugh, say how we feel, and we can't be abandoned anymore because we know how to live on our own. Watch for your 4-year-old. This child may never completely leave you, but you don't have to let this child continue to run this show. You have the right to move into your space of thriving. When we're in survival mode, that inner child is showing up. Reactive, defensive, angry, blaming others, never wanting to take responsibility, disconnected from your own feelings, incapable of expressing those feelings in fear of being abandoned. You don't have to be so afraid any longer. So 2022 is coming, and as you all know, Kwanzaa leads us. The very last day of Kwanzaa is Imani, which means faith, January 1st. We're committing to having faith in our wellness journey, in having faith that all we have to do is start. All we need is a new beginning. So this new beginning begins with recognizing your own wounds. Whatever it was that you said in the visualization to the person, the parent, the adult, the situation, whatever it was that you addressed, that you confronted, it is connected to the wounds that you still carry today. So let's talk about 4 different types of wounds that we have that comes from our past that we carry into our adult lives. The first wound is the boundary wound. We have weak boundaries. We believe sometimes that getting close means having poor boundaries. I don't know where you start and I end, or I end and you begin, right? So do you struggle with saying no? Do you have a hard time with saying no because you feel over-obligated? Do you have a hard time with letting people down, but then neglecting yourself? If you do, I want you to write that down. That's one of your wounds that you're going to be healing. Okay? This comes from the past. If you struggle with speaking your truth, I'm going to tell you right now, this means that you're a people pleaser. And so we're walking away from this wound, right? We're acknowledging it and giving it a name. So this is a weak boundary wound. So I want you to make note of that. The second wound that we're acknowledging today. So these 4 wounds are the ones that keep us in the past, in the pain of the past. So the second one that I'm going to acknowledge today is the guilt wound. Now, I always say you have guilt throwers and then you have guilt catchers. You don't want to be a guilt catcher. If you're a guilt catcher, that means you had a guilt thrower in your life. If you find yourself saying a lot of the times, oh, I feel bad, or I'm sorry. If something good is happening in your life, you might feel a sense of guilt. Or this one is very familiar. I hear it often. We feel afraid that something bad is going to happen to take it away from us. We feel afraid to lose that joy. Okay? Write down your guilt wound if this applies to you. And you could very well have all 4 wounds in your life. It is okay. We are calling them out today because we're moving into healing. The second wound that I'm going to talk about, the third wound rather, is codependency. So codependency is having a strong need to be needed and believing that you can only love yourself to the extent that others love you. No. Our wellness story tells us that we have to love ourselves first before we can give to others, because it's an inside out job. Okay. So if you fear being alone and you constantly need to be attached to others to fill that void, and you may do that by always giving and neglecting yourself, we're going to identify it so that we can work through it. And then the fourth wound is the self-worth wound. I just don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel good enough. If you struggle with a sense of knowing who you are beyond who you've been told, forget about the names you've been called. Forget about the things you've been told about yourself. It is time for you to create a new beginning. And the only way you can do that is by letting go of the past. So we've identified some of what may be holding you back. We're going to now move into the journey of solutions. So we know who the inner child is. We know how to connect with this part of ourselves because we did our visualization. We understand the wounds that set us back and that we carry into our adult lives and how they manifest. How do we heal from this, right? All you have to do is take one step forward. One step forward. A real simple step into the healing that many people undermine, but it is a powerful tool, is affirming what you want and who you are. There is power in affirmations. So I'm going to advise you all, I'm inviting you all to get an affirmation journal for yourself. Just a journal book, something that you can write in. And you identify your wounds, you write those wounds down, and then you create affirmations that create a different story from that pain. Okay? So here's how affirmations work. Okay. The brain processes information immediately on the spot. So it takes everything we say and everything we think literally. So if you say to yourself, oh, I hate myself, I never get things right, I'm stupid, your brain is going to believe that just as much as if you say to yourself, I know that I have value and I'm here on this earth to bring this value to life. Or if you say to yourself, I am deeply loved, I am loving and lovable. I am loving and lovable. So that is an affirmation for yourself today. I am loved, loving, and lovable. Get your affirmation journal and begin writing away. Work with yourself with those kind and gentle words. So I'm going to move into an activity very quickly because the key to healing is to connect your inside self and your outside self. Who you are, what you show the world versus how you feel on the inside is very important. So what we're going to do with this activity is you're going to take 2 sheets of paper. One is for your inside person, how you feel often, and the other is for your outside person, what you show the world. The goal for our healing journey is to take those 2 and bring them together. You want to become true to yourself. Saying yes when you really mean no is not the way to go. Being nice when you're really feeling hurt, when all you have to do is use an I feel statement to resolve that hurt. And trust that you're going to be heard. That's all that it takes. So I am going to do the activity. So your inside self is how you feel on the inside. Each of you should have crayons, colored pencils, markers, or something to participate today in this activity. And so on one sheet of paper, you're going to draw who you are on the inside. How do you feel often? Who do you believe that you are? And then, so we're going to take a minute or so to do this activity. I'm going to be doing it with you. So my inside self. Okay. So I've created my inside self. Okay. Now on the other sheet of paper, you're going to create, who do you show? What do you show the world? How do you reflect yourself to others? What do you show others about yourself? So I'm going to do that right now. Okay? Okay. So you all probably have had enough time to complete these. And after you complete them, I would like for you to pay attention to the difference. Look at so a little bit of a transparent moment. Before I walked into my healing journey and I became aware of my own inner child, I was on autopilot. And what was happening is my inside self felt a lot of joy, a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of power. I knew that I was a deeply spiritual person. You know, I knew that I had a lot of abilities, intuition, but I was afraid. So my outside self looked like this. I was afraid. I had a lot of doubt. I was anxious to please. I was uncertain. What you all are experiencing in my presentation today is the Keisha in her healing wellness journey. It wasn't until I began to do the work that this joy and courage and strength and power was able to come out. It was an inside out job. I had to transform negative narratives that I experienced in the outer world to become this full, and I'm still on this journey. There's so much more to be done, but this activity will help you to come together, to understand that we have to bring them together and allow our true selves to shine. So I hope you found support in that activity to get closer to yourself and to see the parts of yourself. We're going to be wrapping up now. And so I want to close with some healing modalities and some ways that you can bring healing into your own life. Because the beauty about healing is you are your own healer. You have the ability to bring healing to yourself by learning, by experimenting, by trying different things. Okay, so I'll start with the power of crystals. Crystals are an amazing healing modality. All you have to do is plant the intention into the crystal for yourself. So one of my favorite healing crystals is tiger's eye. I don't know if you all can see it. And this tiger's eye helps to bring courage into your life. So you just have to emit the energy of strength and courage into your crystal when you purchase your tiger's eye, and hold it, meditate with it, have it with you. It'll support you in your journey to become more courageous. I have quite a few, but let's see. Oh, this one is my favorite. It was gifted to me by a beloved friend and community, labradorite. Labradorite. This crystal is strictly for emotional healing and wellness. Labradorite. Okay, I don't have too much time, or else I would share all my crystals, but selenite, I love selenite. It makes me feel like I have this beautiful beam of light that's just flowing through my body. And so I can't do anything without selenite usually. Clear quartz as well. Okay, I have a bunch of crystals. I could sit here all day and talk about crystals. So today I have a selenite one and I have a sunstone one. And I'm going to use them because we're going to close with brief Reiki healing. And so Reiki is another healing modality that I wanted to talk about. It's energy healing. It's connecting with universal life force energy, allowing it to flow through your body and allowing you to give the healing to yourself. Okay? Just by tapping with your own internal energy. With your hands. Simple. I'm going to do Reiki for you all before we go. Then lastly, okay, so yoga and meditation. Two powerful tools. Centers you, gets you close to your own inner thoughts, and allows you to take a break because we have like 60,000 thoughts every day. Can you imagine some of those thoughts that come from past narratives and they're replaying over and over? When we meditate, we give our minds a chance to sit and relax. So yoga, meditation, deep breathing, the guided visualization that I did earlier. I want to share a few books that have brought, so earlier I talked about Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie. She writes amazing books. This one, Codependent No More. These two are amazing. So I don't have a lot of time, but I will say Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He teaches about neuroplasticity. So how you can take your brain and make it the brain that you want. So you can stop procrastinating. You can stop being late. You can stop lying to yourself that you're a horrible person. Stockholm Syndrome, all of that. This book is amazing. Will I Ever Be Good Enough by Dr. Kirill McBride. If you are healing from childhood trauma because of a parent, this book will save your life and transform everything for you. And then lastly, 365 ways to raise your frequency. We are pure energy. And when we connect to source, we can raise our frequency. We have that power. This book helps. 365 Ways to Raise Your Frequency by Melissa Alvarez. So I thank you. It has been a beautiful time. I would like to close with a small Reiki treatment for you all. So let us reflect on our wellness journey and the seeds that we're planting during this Kwanzaa season and what fruit we're going to harvest in the spring. What are we going to get? I am ready to move into my wellness journey with each of you. I invite you all to get started if you haven't already. I thank you for sharing time with me. And I'm going to go ahead and do some Reiki healing for us to take us out. All right? So sit comfortably, get relaxed, and enjoy the healing that I'm sending to each of you.
Hello to everyone. My name is Michael Gill, and I'm super excited to be here at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center to share with you my instruments. I'm going to start playing an incredible instrument. This is a musical bow, and this is one of the oldest instruments of our history. It is said that the musical bow came out from the hunting bow. That's a hypothesis, and there are other researchers, other people that says that the hunting bow came out from the musical bow, or some people says that both were developed without any relationship between them. The musical bow is something that uses the resilience of the wood in order to create tension on these strings, and when you plug the string, the vibration is going to be amplified or not. For example, this is a very simple way of playing the musical bow. However, when you add a resonance chamber, and according to some people, the first chamber that we used to amplify the musical bowl resonance was the mouth. So in this case, the instrument is called mouth bowl. It sounds like this. The mouth bowl is because we use the mouth as a resonance chamber. However, if we place a resonator on the floor, it is called ground bowl. And this is the case, for example. Several resonators are used to amplify the vibration of the bowl. In this case, I'm going to use a gore, and it is incredible the use of gores in our history, not only in music. Probably the gores were the first natural liquid container of humans, and also it is very used in music. This is a gore, and when I use the musical bowl this way, it is called beating bow. The beating bow is an Afro-Brazilian musical bowl that was brought to South America during the 15th century by the African people that were taken as slaves to the Americas. This is a very special instrument because it only is not a musical instrument. It is more than that because it is the most important instrument in the capoeira. The capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art that was developed in Brazil by the Afro-Brazilian people in order to train to fight for their freedom. And they cover that they were training martial arts with dance and music. And if you're going to dance and if you're going to have music, you need a musical instrument. And this is the most important musical instrument of capoeira. So once I attach the resonance chamber to the bowl, I'm going to need three more things. This is called cachiche. Cachiche is a little shaker that usually the bottom of the cachiche is made of the piece that you cut here from the cabasa or the gold. So the cachiche goes here. I'm going to need a baqueta or a stick, and I'm going to need a stone or a Bitcoin that in Brazil they call dobrao. The left hand, when you play berimbau, has three main functions. The first one is holding the instrument and keeping the instrument straight with your pinky finger. It's a very challenging function. So you are going to do this, and now with the same hand, you're going to hold and keep straight the berimbau, and also you're going to move away from the string, the rock, in order to change the pitch. Without the rock, with the rock. And now, when you play the berimbau in the Brazilian way, it sounds like this. There's some very interesting sound that you can create with the berimbau that is like a wah-wah effect. When you move away the berimbau or resonance chamber from your belly, you create this sound. So combining all these sounds, you can play. So the Afro-Brazilian berimbau is an incredible, very powerful and beautiful instrument that was originated in Africa, and it was developed in Brazil by the Afro-Brazilian diaspora. I don't want to miss the opportunity of talking about the other important instruments that use the gore as a resonator or even as the instrument. This is the same fruit. This is a gore too, another type of gore. We call it güiro. This is one of the most important percussion instruments in Cuban music. So I want you to understand that we are talking about exactly the same fruit. Exactly the same. So the güiro, we call it güiro in Cuba, is one of the most important percussion instruments in popular music. The güiro is in charge of keeping the tempo or the pulse of the whole band. Usually when the güiro is big and you play hard enough, everybody is listening to the güiro as the guide for playing. Autoridad quiere guardaré conmigo. Yo no sé por qué será. Autoridad quiere guardaré conmigo. Yo no sé por qué será. So the güiro is super important in Cuban popular music. And now this is the shekere. This shekere is an instrument that uses the same fruit, a gore, of course, a bigger and a different size, a different shape of gore to create the instrument. So this is a very powerful and loud shaker, the shekere. You can do this, but also you can hit the instrument. Shekere, exactly the same fruit. And now this is a beautiful and incredible instrument that I'm going to talk a little bit later. But I want to let you know that this is a gore too. This is a super sized big gore, exactly the same fruit. And also I want to let you know that it is incredible when you can use the gore as a medium, as a surface to do art. It's something very beautiful what you can create in terms of crafting and visual arts too. So you can use the gore as a surface to paint, to carve, to do several things. So I'm going to go back to the mbira later, but I want to let you know that the mbira use the same fruit as a resonance chamber. Now I'm going to go to a different and a beautiful instrument that was created in the Americas. This instrument was developed by the Afro-Peruvian population exactly during the 16th century, not exactly as that early. It was during the 18th century in Peru that an instrument started to be defined as an instrument. It's pretty important to say that slavery, despite the slavery was different according to the places, according to the countries. The slavery in the Americas, in Peru, they were not allowed to play drums. They were not allowed to keep with the culture. The Afro-Peruvian people were not allowed to do nothing that they used to do before their arrival to the Americas. So for African people, drumming is beyond having fun and playing music to have a party. It's important to realize and understand that not only for African people, but for a great amount of African countries, drumming is a way of praying. And I'm going to briefly go to my country, which is Cuba. In Cuba, we have the bata drums, and the bata drums are a set of 3 drums that are sacred drums. These instruments are used in ceremonies, in rituals, and these drums are in charge of calling the Yoruba gods for coming to the earth to offering their power, their blessings, and it's absolutely beyond having fun, having a party. It's a way of praying. Dancing, playing instrument, chanting is a way of praying. So we are talking about it's faith, all right? So having in mind that Afro-Peruvian people were not allowed to keep with their traditions, and of course, were not allowed to play drums, it's incredible how these people managed a way to keep expressing themselves through music. And they start tapping on wooden crates. That wooden crate evolved into an instrument. So they open a hole behind the wooden crate, and they replace the surface or the size on which they play. And they call it cajon. The cajon peruano or Afro-Peruvian cajon is the most important percussion instrument of the Afro-Peruvian culture. This instrument was created by the Afro-Peruvian people, and when they create the instrument, and once the instrument became the most important percussion instrument in the Afro-Peruvian culture, during the 70s, one of the greatest flamenco guitar players from Spain, Paco de Lucia, was touring in Peru, and when he listened the sound of the Peruvian cajon, the sound of the Afro-Peruvian cajon remind him the sound of the clapping in the flamenco music, and also remind him the sound of the dancers stomping on the wooden surface that they call tablao. Tablao is the name of the wooden surface that Spanish people give to the surface on which they stomp. So that's a tablao. And he said, if I have the instrument with me, I have the people clapping, and I have the tablao too. So Paco de Lucia took the Afro-Peruvian cajon and he took the instrument to Spain and he inserted the Afro-Peruvian cajon into the flamenco music, up to a point that a lot of people think that the cajon is flamenco, and the cajon was always part of the flamenco music, which is the music of the gypsy people of Spain. Once in Spain, they made certain changes to the instrument. They add strings behind this front plate. They add jingles. They add even like a kind of a snare resonance piece to create the sound of a snare. And this is the way the cajon flamenco sounds like. As you might see, this cajon is different. So it is incredible how this instrument that was originally created by the Afro-Peruvian people in South America under slavery circumstances has been evolving up to a point that was taken into a different culture. And also now the cajon is one of the most important percussion instruments. It's a super useful because you have all the frequencies here. You have the low frequencies here, high frequencies. So you can combine them and you can even create more like a drum set approach type of playing. The technology is evolving too. And definitely technology is something that is part of music. The cajon now have electronic versions. I'm going to show you a processor that not only amplifies the sound of the cajon, but also add electronic sounds to the cajon. So you can almost play with more modern style of music. And also you can play with bigger situations in terms of volume. Definitely is something super fun and very useful. So that instrument that was just a wooden crate and something to play in acoustic settings, now you can use it with big bands, you can use it in big stages. Now I'm going to invite my beautiful and multi-talented friend and singer to play, because I've been playing instruments and I've been talking about music. And music is something very special because you can share that with more people, not with an audience, but you can play with others. And that is one of the most incredible experiences that a musician can have. So I want to welcome you and Singa. How are you? Also to have you. So we are going to do a little bit jamming with the cajones, and you might have an idea of how two cajones sounds together. Basically, I was telling you that we have two main sounds in the cajon. The bass frequencies are located at the center of the cajon, a little bit down here. And the high frequencies are located here by the edge. So by combining these two frequencies, we can play beats. The first beat that I'm going to play is something very famous, and I know that you are going to recognize the beat. It's super simple. Bass, bass, high, a bass, bass, high, a bass, bass, high, a bass, bass, high. We will rock you. We will rock you. So this beat is super famous, and we are using the bass, 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 and the highs. Now, the great thing about the cajon is that you can use something in between, okay? Something in between the bass and the highs, and that is called ghost notes. The ghost notes are sounds that are very subtle. So instead of doing this, we're going to do this. Soften. Now, look at this. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to do the role. I'm trying to play the role of two people. So Nsinga is going to do bass, bass, high, bass, bass, high, a bass, bass, high, a bass, bass. Of course, this is something that one person can do by adding the ghost note. So it takes practice, it takes time, but it's something great about the cajon that you can do like the shaker. So now, let's jam a little bit. You select the beat, and I'll follow you. Thank you so much. Super good, super good. I forgot to mention, when I talk about the kashishi, when I was talking about the birimbau, I forgot to mention that several sizes of kashishis, and this is an incredible instrument. So this is a shaker that you can use it in several ways. For example, when you play like this, it sounds very soft. Now, try. And even you might try this. It's hard. It's very difficult. However, what we are doing here is called poly-reading. Poly-reading means that we are doing several readings at a time. When you're going to face a poly-reading, the first step is I need to understand where the two rhythms gets together. That's the first point. So as a way to start doing this, it would be great to do that. Just focus on the shaker. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass, 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 both, bass, both right, both right, both right. Awesome. She couldn't do it at the beginning, but now when she applied this, it was pretty easy. That's the way. So when you face a music challenge or something challenging in life, it's not something that you cannot do. It's just looking for the way of doing that. Everything has a solution. Everything have an approach and a strategy to be done. So when you face a challenge in music, in school, in whatever aspect of your life, if it is something difficult to you, it's not because you cannot do it. It's just because you haven't get the right strategy to work on that. So everything is possible. So it was the demonstration here. Thank you so much. And now we are going to talk about another incredible instrument that is from Africa. This is from Nigeria. This is the dundun or talking drum. Several sides of the same instrument can be found, and basically this is a drum that has a set of strings and ropes around him that by squeezing, applying tension and releasing tension on these strings, you can change the pitch of the drum. And it is called talking drum because due to some African language are classified tonal languages, which means that the meaning of the language is not only related to the consonants and vowels that you use, but also to the music that you use while you talk. The people of Yoruba land, they can imitate the language with this instrument, and even they can do poetry with these instruments. Of course, you can use it as a regular percussion instrument. And the great thing is that you have a drum that can change the pitch while you're playing. I use a technique to teach the first steps of talking drum, and I'm going to use it now, and then Singa is going to demonstrate it. So I used to say, squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it. Yes, squeeze it, squeeze it. And I'm going to pass the big talking drum to Singa, and I'm going to get the little one, and you keep that one. So that one, now you're going to hear better the squeezes from Singa. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Awesome. So it's a very interesting, very funny instrument. The talking drum from Nigeria, from Yoruba land, or doom doom. Now, I'm going to talk about a different instrument. This is the mbira from Zimbabwe. This instrument for the people of Zimbabwe is it's a very magical, spiritual instrument because for them, they can communicate with their ancestors by playing the mbira. So as the birimbau is an instrument that plays a role beyond its music's qualities. So the mbira is the king or the queen of the lamella fauns from Africa, and it's it uses a gourd. I'm talking about the same fruit that I was talking about at the very beginning when I talk about the birimbau. So this is a big gourd, and the mbira sounds like this. I'm going to offer a brief example of the mbira. So it's an incredible instrument because not only the sound of every metal key, metal piece sounds, it has a system that they add this kind of metals that they buzz. Every time that you plug the notes. So it adds like a shaker sound to the mbira playing, similar to the effect of the strings behind the cajon plate. Now, talking about the African lamella fauns, this is a derivation of the mbira. This is called kalimba. And this is one of the most beautiful instruments I've been able to play in my life. I'm going to show you a very complex kalimba. This is called chromatic kalimba, which means that you have if I use the piano as example, I might say that here are the white keys of the piano, and here are the black keys of the piano. So you have two octaves of G major scale with the flats and the sharps at the bottom. So it's a very complete instrument despite its size, and also the fact that you can amplify the instrument definitely automatically makes the instrument something that you can use in with drums, with a band, which is great. So I'm going to play a short piece here, and after that I'm going to talk about a different type of kalimba and a very great and useful scale. Super beautiful, right? It's incredible. I love this instrument, kalimba from Africa, from South Africa. Now, this is a different type of kalimba, and the kalimba is an instrument that you tune. According to the length of these metal pieces, it is the sound, it is the pitch that you're going to have. Of course, as long as the metal key is the sound is going to be lower. So high pitch, low pitch. This kalimba is tuned in a scale that is called pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is beautiful, it's useful, and it is very interesting how this scale is present in Africa. It is also present in China. When I played the pentatonic scale, for some people, they say it sounds Chinese. But definitely, yeah, it sounds Chinese, but it sounds African, and also is very present in South America. So it's a skill that have been used, have been developed in Africa and in Asia and in South America too. The great thing about the pentatonic scale is that due to use tracks, certain half tones from the scale, the notes that you have technically give you the ability of playing without mistake. It's something incredible. The pentatonic scale sounds great always, and we are going to prove that. So we haven't talked about nothing that we are going to do. We haven't talked about keys, about timing. We are going just to jam. This is a minor pentatonic kalimba, and my friend Nzinga has an A minor pentatonic kalimba, and we just are going to play, and let's see what happens. Thank you so much. Awesome. It was beautiful. So you already know that there's a scale that is going to allows you to jam and to have fun and to produce magic without technically too much knowledge. So the pentatonic scale is something awesome, something very beautiful, and it's very useful. And the fact that it's technically simple, it doesn't mean that it is not great, and it doesn't mean that it is not used by the most incredible musicians on performance. Due to it is very useful, that's something that most of the people use. So pentatonic scale and kalimba from Africa. Now we are going to end with a beautiful, challenging, and the craziest shaker in the Milky Way. This is called cachaca, asalato, or quesques. This is another African instrument too. And these are little fruits that once they are dry, you fill them with little stones or seeds, and they are attached by a rope. And the first use of this is a shaker. Okay, this is a shaker. However, There's more than that. So I'm going to show you how to the steps, the basics of playing this. It is incredible how this African instrument has evolved. So several options today. I'd say this is a plastic version of the same instrument, and definitely the sound is different. And other materials. So this is the most balanced and the most beautiful instrument. However, when you use this a lot, or maybe if something happens, an accident, this can easily break. So that's the reason why plastic options have been created, and even other options that are more durable and harder. So here you have a lot of shaker sound, and you don't have a really loud clap. But here you have a loud clap, and the shaker sound is a little bit low. So the first step, you want to try it?
Okay.
So the first step is we need to place the cachacas here between the index and middle finger here in our hands. And this should be the first step. Once you get this way, we need to produce this clapping. It is like a castanet. That's the first step. So we need to be able to produce that sound. It's a little bit harder. You need to develop a connection between your brain and your hand muscles in order to do that. And once we develop this, we need to start applying that on beat. We keep it all the time. Once we get this, we go to the next level. The next level is this. It's super hard. Most of the people can do it this way. This is so you have to do it and grab it. But the harder part is here. When you go to the bottom, a lot of people say, my hand is too big, my hand is too big. It is a matter of practice. And the great thing is that you can adjust the length of the rope too. So this is the first step. Once you can do this, and you can do this, then you can start trying. Now Nsinga is going to help me keeping the beat. So just this. So just keep it the beat. I need to keep on beat all the time. Now. Ya vele vile vele, ya bala bala, ya vele vile de vele, ya bala 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 la, ya bala la la, ya bala bala la. Cuando no vuelva a ver, qué cosa tendrá reservado para mí este ingrato corazón. Murió la ilusión de nuestro amor. Murió el sol que nos alumbraba, la estrella que nos guiaba también desapareció. Señora, señora, Ya todo terminó y como lo ve, señora. Ya todo terminó y como lo ve, señora. Ya todo terminó, ya todo terminó, ya todo se acabó. Ay, mira qué bonita, ensíngalo todo y como lo ve, señora. Ya todo terminó y como lo ve, señora. Ya todo terminó. Cachacas, Quesques, Asalato, one of the most difficult, crazy, and incredible shakers from Africa. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I want to thank to my friend, my beautiful and multi-talented friend Nsinga. And I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. And I want to review briefly. We took a look, talk about the beating bow, an Afro-Brazilian instrument. This one, the bow, the musical bow. We talk about the Afro-Peruvian cajon, another instrument developed by the Afro-Peruvian people, the African diaspora in Peru. We talk about the shekere, which is an instrument that uses the gore as its body. We talk about the resonance chambers, the use of gores to amplify sound. The güiro, Cuban güiro, a super important instrument in popular music, Cuban popular music, and mbira from Zimbabwe, the instrument that can talk and communicate with the ancestors. We talk about the dun or talking drum from Yoruba land, and the kalimbas from Africa too. And thank you so much.
Greetings. My name is Nakia Oshalami Blake, and I'm going to be speaking on energy healing. So a little bit about me. I am a registered nurse of 18 years. I am a holistic doula. I am a traditional African priestess. I am a mother. I am also a Reiki practitioner of 17 years. So I wanted to start out a little bit with my bio. Who am I? Why am I speaking about this? Well, one of the things that I'm going to definitely express by the end of this session is my passion for energy healing. The other thing, and in no way do my medical background and my metaphysical, energetic healing, any other modality that I use interject. So the other disclosure is that this is not medical advice, okay? So I want to share my passion for energy healing because it's one of those things you don't want to keep a secret. And I know Reiki is getting very popular. People are learning more about Reiki, which I think is absolutely wonderful. But for those of you who are not familiar with Reiki or new to Reiki, or some of you who may actually have been trained in Reiki, I just wanted to share some stories, some real concepts that I've been building on almost for 2 decades. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, now that we have the internet and everybody looks up everything, a lot of things aren't even taught by traditional practitioners anymore. People go online, they get online courses, they never meet the people they're working with, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because traditionally a lot of our indigenous healing methods were taught orally, right? So ideally, we've had to, we would normally do things in person, but through our last 2 years, the pandemic has really had to transform how we do everything, right? Even now, how I'm speaking to you virtually. So, you can look up Reiki, you could do Google searches, you can read books, you can watch videos, you can receive attunements, right? But sometimes what you don't get is some firsthand experiences, stories, things to make those connections, to connect the dots. So for starters, Reiki, the word Reiki. So Rei, you would break it down, Rei, which is spirit or spiritual force, right? And Ki, which is energy. So we're talking about spiritual energy, and Reiki energy is universal life energy. So when we talk about Reiki, we're essentially talking about, or Reiki healing. The practitioner is channeling universal energy. Reiki is many things, and then Reiki's not some things, right? So Reiki is not to be compared to medical interventions. We're not going to compare those two things because they're not the same. It's apples and oranges. But at the same time, Reiki energy can neutralize the energy in a room. It can increase the energy, the vital energy in other objects, could be in your food, in your tools that you use, stones, crystals, things that we use for other purposes, right? Even medicine, things that we use every day, even what we drink, Reiki can be done on humans, of course, but everything that emits energy. So plants, inanimate objects, everything is energy. When we were children, we used to, rub our feet against the carpet and then we touch each other and shock each other. And we thought that was so funny. We always know or always knew we were energy, right? We're pure energy. A lot of people like to recite energy can not be created nor destroyed. But when you actually put that into practice, that's when it becomes life-changing, right? Because that's when it affects everything. So you can apply that to everything, literally. So Reiki energy can be used, and I feel like everybody should know Reiki. Everybody should know how to use Reiki. Why? Because for me, although I'm a trained practitioner, trained nurse, went to school for nursing, practiced nursing for several years, one of the first things I go to is Reiki. If I have a headache, I do Reiki healing on myself. If I have a stomach ache, Reiki healing. It's like the first thing. Why? Because in our society, we have been conditioned to believe that everything has to come from outside of us, right? Everything that is going to help us, heal us, take care of us. So I need either a little pill, or I need an injection, or I need a procedure. I need something that's going to fix me, right? And so with Reiki energy, it's subtle energy. It's something that can balance, can harmonize. I mean, it's just one of those it's one of those things that sometimes can't even be explained, if that makes sense to everyone. I say that because as you become a healer, and I say a healer because you're using this Reiki energy. So it is something that is taught. There are there's symbols, there are hand positions, there's things that you have to learn, right? And so it's important to know that it is a formal practice. It's not necessarily something that you can just make up. And I say that because there's a generation that believes that they can just do that. And of course, everything at some point was made up, passed down. But if it is, don't call it that. Call it whatever you're making up, create your new name. Don't add your own practice and call it something that it already is, that already exists, if that makes sense. So back to what I was saying about Reiki. So for me, if I get a burn, my intuition tells me Reiki, because I got this burn from heat, which is energy. So I'm going to use energy to try to neutralize this pain, or channel energy to try to transform what's going on, or even speed up the healing process, because that's what I found to be very useful. The burn, as opposed to just leaving it alone, which may actually blister and just sting for, just a long time. Reiki helps to soothe and to speed up that recovery time, right? And I've seen this because I practiced this. This is not something that is theorized or conceptualized, not something that you just think about. It's something that you actually can see and test and measure. So, and that's something that a lot of us scientific minds, it's science when it can be measured, right? So, okay, so also in addition to that, you're channeling. So as a channeler, it's not coming necessarily from you. It is something that is being transferred from one space to the next. So you're like a conduit. Um, Self-healing is very important aspect of Reiki because that's something that anyone can do for themselves. As a practitioner, of course, you can help and do healing for other people, which is even more profound because it is contributing to world healing, right? Because we always talk about healing the world. So that's some of the basics with Reiki. Using Reiki self-healing for, it could be anything, burns, stomach ache, backache, any kind of pain or just discomfort, or if you feel, sometimes people can't even explain how they're feeling. They feel off or they feel stressed. It can also help to reduce that and balance the emotions. I can go on because the benefits of Reiki are endless, could just go on for days. So Reiki is something I challenge people to learn more about because it is such a useful practice, such a useful tool. And I believe that everyone has a divine right to healing. So with Reiki healing, I initially wanted to use the word energy medicine. You may have heard that. Some people have coined that term, but I don't want to confuse it with the little pills, the injections. I want you to understand that this is accessible to everyone. In my nursing practice, I've used Reiki in clinic settings, hospital settings. I've used Reiki personally, again, in my home, with my family, children, friends. I mean, the list goes on. And there's so many testimonials, of what Reiki has done for people, but especially for people who self-practice. So that's, as far as Reiki is concerned, that is some of the major things that I want people to know about. There are 3 levels of Reiki: Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. There are also several different types of Reiki. I initially was trained the Usui method of Reiki, but I also learned some Karuna. So there's different I want to say forms of Reiki, but that a lot of things like that can be challenged. They can be some people who feel like their way is better than another way. I mean, in everything, we always have people who want to contradict and compete. All of that there's really no space for that because a lot of that becomes ego. But when it comes to healing, it's best to learn. If it's healing, then it is definitely something we want to use. Now, I'll say this: Reiki is not a religion. So it's not something where people say, well, I belong to this religion, so I can't practice Reiki. It's not anything that is going to change your religious beliefs. Do you know that when you flick the light switch, the lights come on? That's energy. Yeah. So it's not too foreign from a basic scientific understanding of energy. Another thing with Reiki, it is not, again, it's not medicine. It's not something that you have to get a degree in, right? And it's not a belief. A lot of times people will say, I don't believe in something, so it's not going to work for me. So when it comes again to Reiki, Do you believe that when you open the faucet, the water's going to come out? Like a lot of times it's things that people say because they don't have a real understanding of something. So they just assume they know what it is. So again, that's some of the basic concepts and ideas around Reiki healing. So please look up Reiki. Um, Find a Reiki practitioner that you're comfortable with. Um, you could do Reiki in person, you could do it online now. People are doing all kinds of things because again, how can you say you can't do it online? It's energy, right? Your your computer screen emits energy. It's energy. There's no there's no limit to energy. So that's another thing. So you have to really understand that this is something sometimes beyond our basic understanding, our limited thinking. I also want to talk a little bit about acupuncture because I think acupuncture has, I don't want to say gotten a bad rep, but I don't think a lot of people understand acupuncture. And it kind of ties into the whole I don't believe. Suggested, and I'm going to get into my acupuncture backstory in a minute, but I suggested to a family member, from a medical background, that they were having a, severe chronic pain. And I said, I've used I've used acupuncture for healing, and it's been amazing. It's changed my life. I've gotten so much relief from so many different ailments. So it's another one of my go-tos. And so the person said, well, I don't believe. So I think sometimes we think a lot of the things we don't understand have to do with some esoteric, some kind of sorcery, and that's not the case. Acupuncture has been well researched, actually, in addition to Reiki, both researched, have a lot of evidence-based research that's been done on Reiki and acupuncture. Even the Veterans Administration is using acupuncture for chronic pain in veterans, for all different types of conditions. I did a lot of research on it in my own master's degree program on acupuncture and complementary medicine. So that's what they call it, complementary or alternative to, allopathic or the medicine that we all know about, traditional. And I will say generally, it's hard to say traditional because everything that we do has some form of tradition or comes from a tradition. So I will just say your standard medical practice, okay, to be very clear. So back to acupuncture. So I have found a lot of success with acupuncture and stress relief, acupuncture and nerve-related conditions like sciatica, shingles. I've seen the recovery time shorten, the pain, also a lot of pain relief. What are some other things? Chronic pain, of course. Then we get into things like morning sickness, nausea that's unrelated to morning sickness, migraines. There's so many things. Funny thing is sometimes if you're a person who receives that type of healing, energy healing, sometimes intuitively you may have something that you don't even know is associated with that practice. And you talk to your practitioner and they will confirm that, yes, we can do it on this. So even things like fibroid tumors, a lot of people will say they never heard of, getting acupuncture for fibroids. They've always heard, okay, you've got to get a myomectomy, you've got to get, or either a hysterectomy. You just have to have your organ removed. You've got all these tumors, and that's the way to go. And of course, that is the medical way to go. But before they investigated any other, route to alleviate their discomfort, that was the option they were given. So they went with that option oftentimes because that's what they were told. And so I'm here to tell you there are actually other options for some of the conditions we initially think can only be treated one way. And it's so important for us to know that through energy, we can receive healing, we can receive balance, as opposed to only looking to one source. So in this coming year of 2022, we have, we have so many things we've dealt with in 2020, 2021. We have this looming virus that people are constantly coming in contact with, having symptoms. Some people are, become ill. Some people become, severely ill. Some people become mildly ill. We see all kinds of things that have been happening over the past 2 years. And at the same time, a lot of it makes sense and a lot of it doesn't make sense. You look at it and go, well, how come this person got really, really sick and this person didn't? So trying to even understand immunology and the immune system is a mystery to so many people, not just the average person, but even to immunologists and scientists and doctors. And, it's all very, very, I won't say mystifying, but it is still a lot of unanswered questions. And so, but one thing we do know is that the human body it works in so many amazing ways. And so learning how we can find different ways to heal ourselves, to learn about how the body responds to energy is fascinating. And it's something that I think everyone, children, should even learn this. If they can learn this at younger ages, this is something that they can go to when they have bumps and scrapes and bruises and things that, owies and things that we, normally just kind of patch up and we don't think about it and we think, okay, that's taken care of. But sometimes that could help to alleviate the pain, reduce scarring, and things of that nature. So, I remember when my children were little, they used to say, can you do Reiki on me? And it would help them, with things like a bellyache and constipation. And I've seen it work for constipation for adults as well. And so those are just some of the minor things, Of course, there are things that I probably have never even tried and things that you may be, open to trying yourself. But of course, if you do have a serious medical condition, you need to seek a medical practitioner. I'm not suggesting in any way that you use this for serious health conditions, okay, without, consulting a medical practitioner. So it's important to know that what we're going to use this healing, whether it be Reiki, whether it be Tai Chi or Qigong, or whether it be acupuncture, everything has its place. Okay, so finding a practitioner, someone who will work with you, someone who you can learn under, is something that so many of us have access to. We have so much access. Sometimes I don't even know if we know how much access we really have. So again, I'm so passionate about Reiki. I'm passionate about acupuncture. I'm passionate about things that that we overlook as healing modalities because sometimes we don't know enough about them, or it's in the back of our mind. Well, I thought about it, because one of the things with acupuncture, sometimes people are hesitant to use acupuncture because they're afraid of needles or they think it's going to hurt. And so maybe what you could do is meet with the acupuncturist and look at the needles, make sure that when you meet with the practitioner, they give you a consultation before they just, work on you. There should be a formal meeting. Some acupuncturists, they'll give you a full consultation before they do any kind of work on you. Same thing with your Reiki practitioner. They will talk to you and have like a consultation before the practice. Before the healing session. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to, share with you and just encourage and promote, energy healing. So hopefully you have some takeaways from this session. Some of the, I could go into a lot of terms like how Reiki helps with the aura, balancing the aura and your chakras. I could go into all of those things, but really the basics is understanding that it's energy healing and we are energy. And there's subtle energy that we use to shift energy, to move energy. And so, and to channel energy, from universal energy to other forms of energy. So very important thing to note. So in conclusion, I challenge everyone to find these methods, these ancient methods, of healing. You can do some Google searches on Reiki and Dr. Sui and Mrs. Takata and, the history of Reiki. You could also do some research on acupuncture and some of the evidence-based, some of the new studies that have come out on acupuncture and how they have been used for pain. You could listen to NPR and listen to some of those studies. Some of those news, actually, new news that has come out on acupuncture and all the things that it can help with as well. So hopefully in the new year, we're going to be open to new ways of healing and open to non-invasive, non-pharmaceutical ways that exist and have been existing for a very long time. Okay, so again, I'm Oshalami, Nakia Oshalami Blake, and I wish everyone a happy, healthy 2022 and happy Kwanzaa.
Hello, 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 and happy Kwanzaa, and welcome to today's talk. My name is Yetunde Shoulders, and today we're exploring the connection between your health and purpose and how you need to think about it differently as you step into a new year so that you can do it for yourself, for your family, and for our community. So I look forward to you transforming the way that you show up for your health and your purpose. Enjoy. The whole idea and my goal for you today is to understand how to confidently master your health, set your own rules so that you can live through your purpose. My name is Yetunde Shoulders, and I'm a radical clarity and purpose coach. And I look forward to the revelations that will come to you after this conversation. So I want to welcome you to the time that you're choosing to spend here today. Whatever your motivation is, I am fully here to support you. I am clear that I am here to support and guide with my expertise, and I'm looking forward to however and whatever revelations that you come to from what I share with you today. So I always love to share something that I got from my husband when we have conversations around what to focus on. It's two things. One, what is a conflict and what is a distraction? And by his quote, a conflict is something that unless you address it, it will prevent you from achieving your goal. And the distraction is something that because you address it, it will prevent you from meeting your goal. So I'm sharing this with you because I want you to decide, since you're here, to decide on what you allow to be a distraction in this time that we have together. So take a moment to turn off all distractions, put your phone on silent if you need to. If there's any browsers you need to close that you know you'll be distracted by in the next 30 to 45 minutes, turn them off, because what you're going to work away with here has the power to transform how you show up in your life in the next year. And I do not want a distraction to be something that takes your blessing or your understanding or insight away. Now, we're going to explore a couple of things that you're going to, three of the things you're going to learn today with this presentation and conversation. You're going to learn that building your health highway is pertinent to your purpose coming to fruition. You're also going to learn how to master and own your throne, because this is your world and you get to set the rules based on who you are and how you want to show up. And third, you're going to understand the power of shining your light. You know that song, This Little Light of Mine? You have to let it shine because it has to shine. It's inevitable. And so you have to understand how to step into the light for the glory of those that you're meant to serve and your own transformation. So let's get into it. We're talking about purpose and health and how to confidently master your health, set up your own rules, and live through your purpose. I'd love to introduce myself to you. My name is Yetunde Shorters. I am coming to you with 20 years as an international publicist, award-winning. I've done fashion and entertainment and personal branding PR for the last 20 years. I've secured over 1,500 media features globally for all of the incredible men, women, celebrities I've had the honor of working with. I have helped 14 authors become best-selling authors. I'm also a best-selling author and the creator of The Afropolitan Chef. My brand has been featured happily in Forbes, Elle, CBS, Radiant Health Magazine, Tropics Magazine, Red TV, and more. And I am now an executive coach who's NLP Master Certified and recently Brain-Centric Instructional Designer Certified, which means I completely understand how the brain learns and works. So I help you learn in a way that helps your brain absorb 80 to 100% of the information. So I'm looking forward to how I can support you in this connection between your health and your purpose and tap into your intrinsic motivation and value. Now, these are my joys, my family. I am a twin mom, like I mentioned. My husband, we're so cool. I like the guy a lot. And I'm a foodie. I told you about Afropolitan Chef earlier. So these three things bring me joy, and I am grateful that I get the honor of being a wife, and being a mom, and being an entrepreneur in a way that honors my health and how I show up and helps me to live purposefully. So my goal today, in essence, is I want you to understand how and why your health is what makes your purpose possible, so that it keeps you joyful and prosperous. But I always like to understand the real meaning of words so that we know how we're using them. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is purpose? And the dictionary definition of purpose is the reason that something is done or that something is created. A hammer is supposed to help you nail things in. I always like to use the example of a chair. A chair is a furniture with two legs and a seat and a back, depending on it, and you sit on it. Now, the purpose of a chair is for you to sit on it. Some people may sit on a table. Doesn't make it a chair. The purpose of a chair is to be a chair. So when it comes to purpose, what is your purpose? You need to explore that. Let's talk about health. What is health? Health is the state of being free from illness or injury. Are you healthy? And I mean this in the physical, not just metaphysical way. Like physically, are you healthy? Are you living a healthy space, a healthy mindset? Are you healthy physically? And if you can understand that your health is like the pathway to get to your purpose, to help you fulfill your purpose. Because if you're not healthy, if the energy and the vitality that you need to run around, to make the phone calls, to think, to serve your purpose, if you're not able to do those things physically, you can't even show up for your purpose. So if you think about your health as the highway, what are the different things that you need to do so that you can get to your purpose in different ways? And so start exploring and thinking about what your health can do for you and how it can show up in how you serve your purpose. So what I would love for you to imagine is this, and I actually have in the last couple of weeks 3 friends that have been diagnosed with cancer, and it's just really challenging right now to think of what they're going through. And so what I want you to consider and think about is this. Are you coming up with another excuse not to slow down, right? Because for some of us, we need to slow down. That's how we take care of our health. Are you coming up with another excuse not to work out today? Did you wake up and decide, oh, I have to do this thing, or I'll do it tomorrow, or, I'll eat this cake today and do this tomorrow? What are the excuses that you're coming up with that are stopping you from paying attention to your health? Because if you don't make that decision now, you're going to pay for it later. And I need you to start thinking about your health as a long-term investment. Your health is a long-term investment. Stop thinking about it as instant gratification. So the question I want to ask you is, if you got a diagnosis today that you have 8 months to live, if you got a diagnosis today that you have 8 months to live, would you do anything differently? Would you do anything differently? Sit with that question, because there are literally people who have that diagnosis right now. And I ended up in the hospital some time ago from adrenal fatigue. Now, I didn't get a diagnosis that severe, but I did end up in the hospital, and I'll share the story with you in a little bit. But I want to ask you a question, and I want you to grab a pen and paper, and I need you to write this down. I want you to write this down. This is your initial thought on this question. I need you to write down sincerely what you feel. No one is going to read it. This is all for you. This is private unless you share it with somebody else. Nobody's going to read it. And so I would invite you to be sincere and honest with yourself. Answer this question with your heart and your soul. How would upgrading my current health habits benefit my purpose? Ask yourself that question. How would upgrading my current health habits benefit my purpose? So I'd love for you to write down your initial thoughts. I'll give you 2 minutes for that. Okay, now that you have your initial thoughts that nobody's going to read unless you share, I want to share my own personal story of health that tested my desire to step into my purpose. So this was about 2009. I was working hard. I had just left my job as the director of marketing and communications for a company that planned concerts in South Florida. And I was working full time with my own company now, ICPR. And I was busy all the time. I was doing international PR, so my clients were in all parts of the world, and I barely slept. But, I was 20 something, so I was like, I got the energy. I'll, sleep when I die kind of mentality. And so this one day, I had my phone next to me. I took a nap on my sectional sofa, and 45 minutes later, I woke up and I could not move my legs. I mean, even thinking about it now, I just remember being scared. I could not move my legs, and I was trying not to freak out. So luckily my phone was beside me. I stretched over, picked up my phone, and I called one of my pharmaceutical doctor friends, and I started crying. I was like, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. I don't know what's happening. I just took a nap. And she just tried to calm me down. And she's like, you need to breathe. calm down. Okay, try to wiggle your toes. And I wiggled, nothing happened at first. And then she asked me to pinch my toes, and I just did different things that she was, propelling me to do. And I didn't understand what was happening, but eventually I started to feel the sensation back in my legs, and I just cried a little bit more, and I told her thank you. And I got off the phone, and you would think that that was an alarm for me, but I went right back to working hard and overworking and not paying attention to my health, barely working out. I was eating healthy, but the eating healthy didn't match the physical activity that I needed to do. And so just about 6 months later or so, I ended up in the hospital from adrenal fatigue. My best friend had to take me in, and they did all the tests. And, as the doctor was coming in and out, and they're like, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a publicist." And in that moment when the doctor walked out, I was scared, but I also had a level of clarity that I didn't understand before. And I realized in that moment that if I died, none of the stuff that I was so wound up or stressed out about would matter. None of it. My clients will find somebody else. My family, I'm from Nigeria. My family will cry. They will have a party. They will eat rice, and they will move on. And that truth, that clarity of that reality hit me. And in that moment, I had felt like I was one leg in, one leg out on my purpose. And then I decided at the hospital that day that I was going to change my life in 30 days. And what that looked like was, once I got home from the hospital, I stopped watching TV for those days. And, when you work from home for yourself and you have the days where you want to eat lunch and you stop to watch TV and you watch Law and Order, you never, ever watch just one episode. 3 episodes later, you're like, that's 3 hours of your life gone. So I gave up watching TV for that month. I decided I was going to read more. I was going to be more meditative, more mindful. And that decision literally transformed the trajectory, changed the trajectory of my life. I got more connected to my friends. I made new friends. My business saw a different level of boom. I got celebrity clients. I decided I wanted to kick off my best-selling cookbook. My husband and I kind of got together and got clear on what we wanted to do. Then we were dating. But certain things just came to fruition from just deciding that my health was important, and that if I wasn't here to do the things I was stressed out about, and I wasn't fit enough to do them, none of the purpose work would matter. And that was the day I made the decision. That was in 2009, and life has not been the same since then. So what I want to share with you, that I want you to know, that I think you should know, that no one is telling you, are 3 secrets about your life that you may not be paying attention to, but you need to start thinking about differently. And secret number 1 is this: there are only 12 hours in the day. Let me repeat that. There are only 12 hours in the day. And here's what I mean, if you're going to be practical. There's day and night, 12 hours day, 12 hours night, in terms of how the clock works. Obviously, depending on when the sun goes down, that's a whole different story. But if you can work with the idea that there's day and night, and you have 12 hours in the day to do whatever in the world that you think you're supposed to be doing, I believe that you're going to be more cognizant and more mindful of how you spend those 12 hours. So that whole, there's 24 hours in the day, you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to use the bathroom, you have to, if you're driving somewhere, you have to drive from one point to the other point. Like, there's things that happen in the day that have nothing to do with work, that has to do with you functioning as a human being. Estimate 12 hours for that. So the other 12 hours is what you have for your dreams, for your job, for your family, whatever it is. Now, should you decide you want to take some hours from the nighttime, that's up to you. But you actually only have 12 hours in the day. If you can start working from this space, you'll be more present and mindful of how you spend those 12 hours. So when you wake up in the morning, you're already a few hours in. So you need to decide how you want to spend the rest of that 8 hours or that 10 hours as you move about your day. So that's secret number 1. Secret number 2 that I want you to understand is you are literally light. You have a piece of God in you, meaning the breath. If you have breath, whether you believe in God or not, the fact that you're breathing and you're walking, there's something that you do not control that is inside of you. So by default, that part of you that has the breath of God in you is light. That is the part that helps you understand that this is your world. You belong here. It is nobody else's world. It is our world collectively. But whatever world that you choose to build and set up for yourself, whatever you choose to learn from people, whatever examples or mentors or places or challenges you need to go through, what I want you to understand is, since this is your world, you get to decide what your own success formula is after you've experienced all of that. You are in control of what is going on as a grown adult. So I need you to identify what is your own success formula of all the things you've learned in the world so far, even what you're learning here now today. What are you going to take away to come up with your own success formula to create your own world that is powerful, transformative, beneficial to you and beneficial to all of us as a community? How are you contributing? And then in understanding that you are light, the secret number 3 is imagine yourself as a lighthouse. And I need you to anchor to your spot. So here's what I mean. I always use the metaphor of imagining yourself in a dark room. It's really dark. There's 100 people in that room. And there's 40 people that are there, but they don't know why they're there. And you're in that room too. It's pitch black. Now, there's a spotlight that comes on. It's super bright. And that spotlight is squarely on you. Imagine that. Two things typically happen depending on where you are at the level of your health and how ready you are to support and pursue your purpose. One is, shut off that light. I don't want that light. It's too bright. It's on me. I don't want it. And 2 is realizing in that moment when that light comes on is so that those 40 people can see you. The light is there for them to identify that you are there to help them, not for you to dance in. So if you can imagine yourself walking out of that room with those 40 people, those other 60 people are none of your business. And that's the challenge. We have people in here who are focused on those 60 people that are not your people. Meanwhile, those 40 people that are specifically in there for you are waiting to hear from you. And so if you can imagine yourself as a lighthouse, right? So I always use the metaphor of, there are a couple of different lighthouses. There's lighthouses that float, right? So when you're still in this space of, you have an idea of what you're supposed to be doing, but you're still floating around, right? Testing different things. Nothing wrong with that. There comes a time, however, that you have to anchor and be the second lighthouse that is rooted, where people come to you when they're in search of that transformation and your light is on and it's dark outside and you just stay in one spot and you turn on your light, and they will find you because you are the one they've been looking for. The thing that is your expertise is what they've been looking for. So I want you to think about getting healthy so that you can be that lighthouse that is anchored and stationary and sturdy and grounded, so that those that you serve can swim to you because they know that you are the lighthouse. And imagine all of us being the lighthouse for different things that we need in our life. There are people that need you to turn in your light because they're looking for you, and you cannot leave them out there to suffer and to drown because you're not ready to turn on your light. Your light is supposed to be on. So be that little light of yours and shine, because you're meant to shine. Anything else is detrimental to your well-being. So what I want you to explore when you think about your relationship with your health and yourself is, what type of relationship do you want to have with your health, your purpose, and yourself? There are 2 types I want you to consider. There's the one night stand bargain type relationship, which a lot of us are engaged in. Like, you're like, oh, I'll be healthy today. I'll eat, some greens and some vegetables and tomatoes today. And tomorrow is like, okay, that ice cream's calling me, and, Steak and Shake is calling my name. And then think about that as a one night stand. You're in and out all the time. There's no commitment. Now, consider a value-based relationship type feeling that you can get from having a healthy relationship with yourself. There's an intrinsic value in a relationship that you can't put money on. You can't put a price on. You can't even necessarily know what it is until you get in there, because it's intrinsic. The values are things that you can't put a price on. Is the companionship, is the love, the relationship, the care that comes with it. I would love to invite you to have a value-based relationship with your health and your purpose, and nurture it and take it out on dates. Like, it's the same idea, is you have to nurture your relationship with your health consistently. You don't get to drop the ball and think it's okay. You don't get to take your health for granted and think there are no repercussions for that. Because once you are healthy, you have the energy, the wherewithal, the mindset, the presence of mind to pursue your purpose. So your health is vital to your purpose being manifested. So I'd love you to decide, what kind of relationship do you want to have with yourself about your health and your purpose? Do you want to have a one-night stand relationship? Or do you want to have a lasting value-based relationship? No judgment here. I'd love for you to use the principles of whatever the choice you've made to handle your health, to handle your life, and to handle your purpose. And see the rewards or consequences, however it comes out to, based on what you decide. But you deserve a healthy, fulfilling, prosperous life, and you get to decide how you want that to show up. Now, I hope all this is getting you to think differently about your health and purpose. So we're going to take a brain break, and I'm going to do some Simon Says with you. So get up, stretch your hands, stretch your legs. If you're driving, don't worry. If you can pull over, that's great. What I want you to do now is follow my instructions. Simon says, touch your heart with your left hand. All right? Simon says, touch your head with your right hand. Simon says, say, I will take care of my health. I will take care of my health. That's good. Simon says, say, because it gives me the energy for my purpose. And you say, because it gives me the energy for my purpose. Simon says, say, I am committing to my well-being starting today. I am committing to my well-being starting today. Simon says, say, I deserve to live a healthy and purposeful life. I deserve to live a purposeful and healthy life. All right, Simon says, you can put your hands down now. Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking a little brain break with me. Now I have one more thing to share with you so that you can actually take incremental steps to a new plan that can work in your favor. And I'm going to walk you through this. This is a process I use for my clients to help them develop a kind of recovery or new plan to activate new habits. So I want you to draw on a piece of paper 4 quadrants, write down your name, new plan, 2022, 2023, whatever the year is. Write that down on the top. Now, in each quadrant, first you're going to have the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. So I'm just going to explain it here so you have a chance in the next moment. So for me, this year I had written down one of my plans to just kind of help my mental wellness was to spend 15 minutes of quiet time in the morning. And I would say of the amount of days in the year, I've successfully done this maybe about 200 days this year, which, compared to last year is pretty high. So, I have days that are challenging that I fall off the wagon, but I get back on. So for my mental plan, just so I can have a new habit, what I started to do is 15 minutes in the morning of quiet time, literally just quiet time, no noise, nothing. And then for emotional new plan, just to kind of balance how I'm feeling. I'm a logical, emotional being, so I understand logic, but I go through waves of emotion whenever I experience things. And so trying to figure out how to release those emotions daily. So what I started to do was spend 15 minutes per day, and this has been very helpful, to review all my emotions that I went through in the day and then just mentally release them, take deep breaths, breathe from my belly, and release those energies. For physical, I'm really proud of this one because I have actually committed to this, and it's been a little over a year now. Is the physical plan was to move at least 10 times a day. So what I started to do was to, I started at first with 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but to start working out, taking walks, fast walks, slow walks regularly, weekly. And so I average about 8 to 10 miles per week. So that has actually become a part of a habit now. And that's the idea of this whole new plan, is to do incremental things that you can integrate into your life so it just becomes normal for you. And so you can do one at a time or one over time. And so for the spiritual plan, this I'm still working on, my whole spiritual plan is to read 20 minutes a day. I skip days, but I definitely try to make sure I'm reading something that nourishes my spirit. Reading for me is like soul food. And so I want you to spend the next 2 minutes coming up with your own new plan. For a quadrant: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. These are incremental little things. Even if it's a 2-minute meditation, whatever you can work with to start with, and just do it daily so that it becomes a habit for you. And once it becomes a habit, I think it takes like 66 days or so plus to form a habit. And once you can do something over the next 60 plus days, it becomes a part of you, so you can jump to the next thing and just create a new lifestyle intentionally. So I'd love for you to take a moment, write down 4 health habits or things based on that quadrant that you would love to start changing. And these things that you are sure will impact how you show up for your purpose. Starting now. And now that you've committed to these 4 things, I wish you the strength. Find a couple of people to hold you accountable so that you can step into this new year in a healthy and purposeful way. So as we wrap up, I have 3 questions for you that I'd love you to explore with me as you think about your health and your purpose. First, I want to ask you, from what you've learned and watched and observed today, what surprised you about what you've watched and heard today? What surprised you? So anything that you realized or anything that you watched or saw, anything that sparked any insight you had? What surprised you about what you've watched and heard today? Second question is, what did you already know but that you now see in a different light? What did you already know but now see in a different light? And the last question is, what do you still need help with? We are a community that has been through a lot, but also has the fortitude, the resilience, the love, the patience, the things that we need to purpose through and to health through. And so we have to step into the vulnerability that's required to do what we need for our next level as a collective. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for staying focused and not distracted. And I'd love to offer you one of my free audio downloads. It's a Forbes article that I wrote. So far, I think about 27,000 views. I'd love you to go over to yetundeshorters.com and watch, enter your email and the first name and listen to this audio and step into a different way of thinking about your purpose and being clear on what you want to do. It's simpler than you think. And I would love to be able to guide and support you in this journey. And it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to serving and supporting you. Take care.